Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Jubilife City Jukebox. My name is Reese, you may also know me as Ronk, and this is a show where we talk to your favorite Pokemon creators about their favorite Pokemon music. So we've got our first guest, our first proverbial guinea pig, if you will. You may know him from his YouTube channel, which has accrued nearly over 2 million views. You may have met him at the European International Championships, where he might have traded records with you and raided your secret base. Or you might know him as being the official creator and rights holder, patent pending, to the little guy with the really big SP, CannedWolfMeat. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here for your test run of this.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna figure it out as we go here. Are you a big podcast guy in general, or?
I'd say so. I've listened to my fair few podcasts in the time. I'd say I was kind of early on the podcast train, honestly, because I remember back in probably 2009 or so, I had a few podcasts I was listening to back when people were using podcatchers and sort of working out what a podcast actually was.
Yeah, there was a time back then where it was like, it wasn't even a podcast, it was like an internet radio show. It was a weird in-between period.
That was the kind of vibe people were running with for a bit, because like the podcast medium just hadn't been established yet.
Yeah, 100%. I'm pretty new to podcasts, I think. I didn't listen to them at all in high school. I started listening to them back when there's this Australian comedy group I listened to called Anti-Donna, and they had a podcast, and it was like during the pandemic.
I'm aware of them.
Yeah, during the pandemic, I had all this time, so I started there. But now it's like my primary thing I listen to, whether it be like if I'm driving or if I'm at school or whatever. I'm
nice.
I'm obsessed with them now.
Yeah, I was really big in like the Yog Pod. That was sort of my introduction.
Right.
Yeah, the classic, Lewis and Simon from the Yogscast, just sort of like a lot of the time the podcast was just kind of snippets of like them talking over like Ventrilo while like just doing stuff. It wasn't even like recorded with the intent of being a podcast.
Right.
It's got kind of like an interesting feel to it.
All right, so we'll start with the basic question, the question I'm sure everyone's gonna have to answer. What got you into Pokemon, and what kind of got you into content creation for Pokemon?
Ooh, those are two quite different stories, I guess.
All right, we'll start with the Pokemon one then, sorry. Yeah.
Pokemon, it's kind of hard to remember exactly when I first sort of became aware of it. It's kind of just always existed for me, you know? I was born in, 2000, right? Generation 2 already existed by the time I came into the world. And by the time I had any sort of cognizant thoughts, Gen 3 pretty much already existed. But I remember that I got my first Pokemon game, which was Fire Red, back when I would have been about maybe 5 years old. And I got it, I'm pretty sure, because I was going into hospital for a sort of prolonged stay because of medical problems that I have. And, I got that game and I just sort of latched onto it and played the hell out of it and just kind of never really stopped from there, honestly.
Yeah, I'm around the same period as you, because I was born 2001, but I didn't start till Gen 4, so I wasn't as early as. I feel like that 1 year gap was the difference between like if you started with Gen 3 or Gen 4. I feel like a lot of people I know that started in were born in the 2000s. Gen 3 was their start for sure.
I mean, I guess I technically was on Gen 1 because it was Fire Red, Leaf Green. Like I didn't own a copy of Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald until a lot later. So in some ways, I do also kind of consider Generation 4 to be very much kind of one of the old regions that I attach more strongly to. But I guess we'll get into that when it comes to my music choices.
Yes. So, once you got into Pokemon, obviously you've been playing for a long time. What kind of got you into content creation for it?
Honestly, I kind of just wanted to get better at video editing. Like it's something that I've delved into a bit before. And I remember even when I was a bit younger, it was something I was kind of interested in. It's, I guess, a little bit embarrassing, but I think it was the annoying orange that kind of got me into like the idea or like the concept of like video editing and special effects.
Right.
Because I remember watching like the creator, they did like Q&A sort of vlogs every now and then. And they like the most asked question was like, how do you do this? How do you make the fruit talk? And they just say After Effects. And I didn't know what that was.
Right.
And I get that question answer didn't really answer anything. But I think that sort of kept with me a bit as I got older. And like, I think during high school a bit as well, I started messing around with some like videos and visual effects. Like I learned how to do like the cool lightsaber effect, which is really time consuming because you basically have to just do it frame by frame.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I got a few. I did have a bit of a YouTube channel before this one. Of course, it wasn't like anything really big. It was just me kind of making these videos, posting them like for friends to look at, maybe get like 100 views on something.
Mm-hmm.
But again, later down the line, I wanted to sort of get more into like assembling videos. But of course, if you want to do that, you need a video to edit.
Mm-hmm.
So for like my sort of very like first proper upload, at least it was Pokemon related, I was like, well, I know a lot about Pokemon. I could probably test assembling a sort of essay presentation kind of video. So I thought of a concept. I was like, how many Pokemon can you like actually catch by like throwing Pokeballs at them and not like getting them given to you as a gift or through a special event?
Mm-hmm.
I basically wanted to work out if you actually could catch them all.
Right.
And from that, I did all my research. I assembled like a bit of a script. I assembled it all together, threw it out, and it did not too bad. Like surprisingly for a channel that had like no presence beforehand whatsoever. I think I just sort of got lucky with the algorithm, and I got like a few thousand views.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I was like, oh, I guess this is something that people are interested in seeing, and I need more practice, so I might as well think of some more topics, write some more videos, and from there it's just sort of kept going.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy that one of your first Pokemon videos doing like a couple thousand views. That's kind of insane for YouTube, honestly.
Yeah, like I'm never gonna pretend that I didn't kind of luck out there.
Mm-hmm. And so from moving from kind of Pokemon up to the music here, do you have any sort of background in music at all, or?
Not by choice. I did have like a few musical instruments that I played growing up, but it was very much a case of it was what my parents wanted me to do. They were very adamant that I should be learning an instrument,
right?
And
right.
I never really like took to it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just kind of like not fun having to like practice and revise. And obviously, if I had stuck with it, I'm sure I'd probably have like some amount of skill, but I just wasn't interested. I wanted to like get away from it as fast as possible. And there is that slight hint of regret that I can't now like play the piano or like the trumpet or the drums or whatever I was playing. But at the same time, it was just kind of an awful experience that I didn't want to keep doing. So I can't really blame my past self for not wanting to stick with it.
No, music is a lot like language learning, where you have to like want to learn it to like get good at it.
Yeah.
And I find
I'm not good with languages.
And I find like as someone who learned music later in life, like I only picked up guitar in high school because I wanted to, and bass. And I find that a lot of the people who like grew up kind of being like pushed into classical music and not being able to play like music you like, if you're not a fan of classical, it feels like homework, right? And I think that's why a lot of people kind of didn't stick with it. And it's the same thing with school. Like we had a music class in grade school where we played the recorder, and I'll never forget that. And then like, yeah, moving on to like band instruments and stuff. When I got to high school is kind of when I picked it up, but I totally get that. I think that's a story we hear a lot about people just kind of, you know, they were pushed into it as a kid. They weren't as interested as a kid. And now when you're older and you kind of understand it better, it's like, oh man, like if only it wasn't if only it wasn't so boring back then, you know, I would have kept up with it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like if Undertale had come out like a lot earlier, I'd been able to like kind of get into that music.
Yeah,
and, like, learn how to play that. That might have like made like an actual difference.
I could totally see that, 100%. All right, so you've brought to us 6 songs, 6 of your favorite from the series. Let's just we'll start with the first one. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, first off, I went for a bit of an interesting one here. It's very much. I imagine you're probably going to get quite a lot of repeats, like answers, because there's a lot of very iconic music in the Pokemon franchise. Mm-hmm. So, admittedly, I kind of picked these tactically in a sense. I didn't want to just drop too much of like a single generation or a single game. So, honestly, these might not exactly be my top 6, but I think they're all kind of cover various facets of the Pokemon franchise.
Right.
So, first up is the saving music from Pokemon Ranger on the DS.
This is such a good choice. I was so excited. I love this because I think you're completely right. I think like Route 209 specifically is a song that everyone loves. It's my favorite, and I guarantee everyone is going to bring it to the table. So I was very excited to see saving for Pokemon Ranger. So I've just got a bit of info here. It was composed by Takuto Kitsuta and Kinta Sato. So from the original Pokemon Ranger soundtrack. And before we get into why you chose it, I actually have a bit of a composer corner here for Takuto Kitsuta. A relatively long and storied career when it comes to like composing for games. So obviously a Japanese composer. He got to start working at HAL Labs. And the first thing they were actually credited on was Mother 3 for the N64, which obviously was canceled. That never actually ended up coming out. But continued to work at HAL Labs and then worked on Smash Bros. Melee in 2001. So they're credited for like the drum arrangement for Mute City. So they were starting on like the big games right away. And then in 2001 and 2002, they were working for Creatures Inc. And then this was when they did their first Pokemon project, and I didn't even know these existed. Obviously I knew about e-reader cards, but they were the sound designer for 2 of the Pokemon e-reader card games. They were called Machop at Work and Kingler's Day. Have you ever heard of these?
I'm vaguely aware of them. I don't have a lot of experience with the e-reader personally, because I don't think it actually released here in the UK. It's like kind of hard to get hold of an e-reader. Right. Yeah, like I want to, because I know there's a lot of very interesting stuff you can do with it. I've messed around with like the digital side of e-reader cards and like making my own trainers, which I did for a video. Mm-hmm. And I'd really like to get a hold of an e-reader so I could try and maybe print out my own custom ones and see if they actually work.
Right.
But we just didn't really get the e-reader here, so it's still very much kind of a strange mystical element of Generation 3 to me.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they were the sound designer. I think Junichi Masuda was the one that did like the actual arrangements, but so that was his first Pokemon project, was doing the sound design on these 2. And then by 2006 he worked on his full Pokemon game, which was Ranger, which is where this is from. They were the sound designer and composer alongside Kinta Sato. And I think Ranger has a very distinct soundtrack. Like when you hear a Ranger soundtrack, you just know. And I think it's just such a great job on it.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the fact that people will very much recognize Ranger music, because I use it as like background sort of filler music in a lot of my videos. And pretty much every video I've used Ranger music in, there is at least one comment shouting out Pokemon Ranger and like pointing out that I'm using that music.
Mm-hmm. It's perfect.
Despite it being a Gen 4-ish like DS remake, or sorry, DS side game that only got like 3 installments, it very much has like a loyal cult following.
100%.
Every time we get a new like Pokemon Presents or a Direct, there is at least someone out there like hoping that they're going to do something with the Pokemon Ranger franchise.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there continued to work on Pokemon projects that kind of just went higher and higher. I don't have the direct songs for these, but they worked as composer on Heart Gold and Soul Silver. They worked in sound direction for Pokepark Wii. They were sound director on Guardian Signs again, so I think that's kind of why the soundtracks are so similar. Worked on music for Detective Pikachu and Detective Pikachu Returns, and then most recently was a sound director in a game I know you play a lot of, and I actually do play a lot of. They're the sound director for TCG Pocket, actually.
Oh, interesting.
They're still under Creatures Inc. If you look at like the staff credits, there's like 2 different groups. I forget what the first one is, but yeah, they're the sound director. I wish I could know what music they actually composed for it, because I think Pocket has some cool music. It's got some nice little tracks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our composer corner here for Takuto Kitsuta. So what made you choose saving? Like what was your choice behind this one?
I mean, like I've said before, I don't really have a deep music background, so I can't explain anything in like technical music terms. Mm-hmm. But it just sounds good.
Yeah.
It's something about just hearing those like 6 notes and then that looping sort of warbling theme that comes afterwards. It just like evokes sort of nostalgia and the memories of me playing Pokemon Ranger. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably because you'd get to those points to save the game after clearing some sort of significant milestone. Like I remember a lot of the very challenging parts of Pokemon Ranger, like the Steelix battle is one that I always remember, because it was such a difficult boss fight to complete with the original Pokemon Ranger. Mm-hmm. And something about that saving theme, I think, just sort of fills you with a sense of accomplishment. It's like very soothing. It's like restful. It's sort of letting you know that you've surpassed some challenge. You don't have to go back to that. For the moment, you can just rest. You're done. You're safe. You're saving.
It's very similar to, I don't know if you've ever played Resident Evil, but it reminds me of Resident Evil in the way that like the rest of the Ranger soundtrack's very like it's very like adventurous and kind of triumphant. And the music kind of loops
triumphant
a lot.
is definitely what I'd say. It's got that sort of kind of trumpety sound to a lot of it as well.
Yeah, and like in Resident Evil, you know, a lot of the background noise is very, you know, it's a survival horror and it's very, you know, spooky. But the save rooms are always like really chill, like piano music and like guitar music. Like it invokes that same feeling for me of like, you know, like you said, you put in all this work, you've just passed something hard, and you can just kind of like rest for a second. You know what I mean? Yeah, just that little jingle and the two chords back and forth. I like this choice a lot. I would have never thought to come back and like re-listen to it, but I had it on like I had a playlist of all your stuff, and I really like it. I think it's a great choice. I really like it.
Obviously, there's quite a lot of other good Ranger music as well that I can point out that I use in my videos. Like there's got the cave theme, there's like a nice sound to it. Mm-hmm. There's like Windtown. There's sort of even like the opening theme. They're very sort of triumphant, like blaring out trumpet sounds. It's very good for like a kind of like a accenting something and like a bombastic opening.
Right, for sure. All right, so there's our first one. That's our 1 of 6. What is your next song you've brought?
My next song, I've decided to go in sort of a chronological, I guess, or I mean, I guess stepping back, but this would be the theme for I believe it's Chrono and Flow Islands, also known as Islands 4 and 5 in the Sevi Islands, which was the post-game area for Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Mm-hmm. Another great choice. Composed by Go Ichinose, like a lot of this music will be. And it's just a remix of Azalea Town from Gen 3, or from Gen 2 in the Gen 3 sound font.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to bring that up, but yeah, it is just the theme to Azalea and Blackthorn City.
Yep, exactly. So what made you choose this one?
I went for this one because, similar to the Ranger theme, it has sort of a time capsule quality to it for me. Mm-hmm. It's as I said, this is the post-game area in Fire Red and Leaf Green. The Sevi Islands, despite Kanto appearing again in, you know, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and, you know, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sevi Islands have, like, never shown up again. Mm-hmm. This was exclusively Generation 3, this remake. Yeah, of course, because when I started with, you know, Generation 3 Kanto, I'd never played Johto before. Mm-hmm. So, of course, this theme was new to me. This wasn't the theme to Azalea and Blackthorn. This was the theme to the Sevi Islands.
Right.
And Islands 4 and 5, because once you get to the Kanto post game, it does kind of open things up a lot in a very weird way. Mm-hmm. Like the Sevi Islands do a good job of being a post game area, because you'll start seeing Johto Pokemon, which like a very commonly, I guess, a known thing about Fire and Leaf Green is they're very careful about only letting you have Kanto Pokemon.
Right.
Like you cannot trade with like Hoenn until you do this whole post-game quest. You can't even evolve your Pokemon into their Johto evolutions until that post-game. Mm-hmm. But this area, it's very much... It opens that up. It's kind of introduces you to like a sort of wild, sort of rugged, unexplored arpeggio of islands.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No, go on.
I always found that like the Sevi Islands always felt kind of like a vacation, you know, at the end of Fire Red Leaf Green.
Yeah.
It feels like a little
feel to it.
Yeah, it's got that extra add-on. For me, like I played Fire and Leaf Green as a kid, but I never actually got to the post game because I never had Gen 3 games until like only a few years ago. I would just borrow them from friends. But like for me, I'm like almost the complete opposite. I didn't hear Azalea Town until Heart Gold Soul Silver, which I played well before I actually got to the Sevi Islands. But it's really nice to hear it in the Gen 3 sound font. I really like the drum pack, like the sample pack they've got for the drums. It's so Fire Red Leaf Green. It's so perfect.
Yeah, like
it's such
going
a chill
back to it, there is that sort of element of like hearing the music from a different region in a different sound font. That's something a lot of people do, you know, sort of videos with, like online. They'll make remixes of, you know, a Hoenn town in the Gen 5 sound font, or like a Sinnoh town in like, I guess like the Kanto sound font. But this is like an actual official remix of a song in a different sound font that you don't actually visit in that generation.
It's
It's
great.
got an interesting feel to it.
It's perfect. I really like that. It's a great choice.
Yeah, and like Island 4, of course, is the first line you get to in the post game area. So I think this kind of hearing like this music very much sort of brought me back when I did my replay of Generation 3 for my living decks, getting to Island 4 and hearing this music in this font. I think it sort of triggered that slight memory that I forgot of being on this island for the first time back when I was like 5 years old. So it is very much just a nostalgia pick for me.
That's kind of the beauty of the Pokemon music. I feel the same way. It's always like, it brings you back to like a time and place. And I think this one, especially just it being such like a chill track and kind of like so laid back, I think it's real great for that. All right, so we've got 2 of 6 now. What is your third one you've brought to us?
For my third one, I'm going to jump forward a little bit into Generation 5, and that would be the theme of An Unwavering Heart, which is the sort of emotional piano song that plays specifically in Castelia City when Bianca's dad shows up to sort of convince her to give up and come back home because he disapproves of her, like, I guess, like going out into the world. And I think it also plays again a bit later into the story in interaction with Sharon. So it is sort of like kind of like a rival emotional moment theme. But something about it is just very, it's quite raw. It's like a bit sad. It just kind of makes you feel sad in like the right way.
It really is like the quintessential sad Pokemon song. Like if you were to play, even on my own video, I think my Cacnea video, when I lost the audio for it, I was like, I'll just play a sad song underneath it. I use this one because there's no other choice. And like even for a song where, you know, on the DS they're only limited to so many MIDI tracks and they're forced to compose kind of around this limitation. It's genuinely a very moving song, considering it's only like it's MIDI instruments and like 3 tracks maybe. Like especially when the strings kind of come in the second time around, it's a really great song. I think it's a really beautiful composition for, you know, what is at the end of the day just like a children's game.
Yeah, definitely. It is. I feel like it certainly represents a point as well because like Generation 4 on the DS, they do still have that same sort of fidelity and like audio quality, but they do kind of still sound like a little bit, you know, digital chiptune in a way.
Right.
Like they're kind of transitioning into making music that sounds a bit more like actually instrumental versus, you know, like the Game Boy bleep bloop sounds. But I think Gen 5, they kind of really stepped it up a little bit. Like the music does sound a bit more instrumental in quality.
Yeah, the this track specifically was composed by Shota Kogeyama, which is a name I haven't actually seen before, but I don't think they did the full soundtrack, but they're one of the credited names for this like track specifically. But yeah, just I don't know. I think it's a really pretty song, especially for, you know, a Gen 5 game. Even like I remember like something about Pokemon music in general, like listening to it as like a FLAC on your PC with headphones is way different than hearing it like from your DS speakers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do get like a little bit of that. Like you get a bit more quality when you're not playing it out of like a DS speaker on like max volume.
Yeah, but like I think that's kind of the magic behind so much of this music. Like listening to it now, if you listen to it, you know, with earbuds in and it's like the highest quality you can, it's great. But you can pick out each individual track and it doesn't feel as like cohesive. But when you listen to it on a DS, you've got like, it's like a 1-channel speaker. It's this tiny thing. It really kind of like, you know, comes together nicely.
Yeah, I guess you could sort of emulate that yourself if you wanted by just, you know, dropping it into like Audacity and bit crushing it a little bit if you really wanted to feel nostalgic.
Re-bit crushed, yeah. That's a great idea for a channel.
Yeah, like there are a few like DS era songs that I've listened to a bit. Like I guess I'm like tangenting a little bit from Pokemon here, but Drawn to Life, that's another DS era game that I've used a bit of music in my videos that also gets a lot of comments on when I use it.
Mm-hmm.
And there is one track sort of in the similar vein to Unwavering Heart, which is like the credits theme for Drawn to Life 2. And I think for a while the only like version of that you could hear online was basically like a DS quality recording.
Okay.
So it did have that sort of slightly lower quality bit crush, not quite getting the full range of like the audio, but still hearing it in that quality still felt kind of like emotional in a way.
Right, 100%. I totally get it.
Yeah.
All right, so that we're halfway through here. That's 3 of your 6. What's the next one? What do we got?
Well, my next one, which you sort of immediately called out at the start of this, But it is Route 209 from Sinnoh.
Oh, so good. It's so good. And I have empirical proof. So this was composed by Hitomi Sato, which is well known for. She's well known for a lot of fan favorite tracks. Like if you go through her discography, half of the fan favorites are done by her. She's just incredible. It's my personal favorite. I'm sure I'm going to mention it in every episode, but it's my personal favorite Pokemon song. It's like the gold standard. And not only that, but like I said, I have empirical proof. In 2024, Famitsu did a poll for their most popular Pokemon music. So they did a bunch of polls for, I think it was like route music, city music, certain battle themes, and then like other music. Other music was just kind of like anything that didn't fit. So like Eterna City, or Eterna Forest, sorry, or like Old Chateau. And coming out 8 overall and number 1 in the route music was 209. It's just like so well loved. It just blew everything else out of the water.
I mean, it's even got some like attention recently as well. Like I don't know if you saw this, but like April 1st, a couple of days ago. So like between when I sent these in and us recording, if you mind me dating this recording a little bit.
Yeah, who knows when it'll come out.
Yeah, there was this like a Vocaloid song sort of in the set of like, you know, all the Hatsune Miku Pokemon collabs.
Right.
There was a recent one that came out, and it does have like a whole break that's just Route 209 in it. I don't know if you
really.
Heard that.
I didn't even know that. I haven't listened to any of that. No. I haven't been keeping up with like the whole the whole Vocaloid like Pokemon stuff, but that's great. I gotta listen to that like right after this. That's
yeah.
perfect.
I'll like just remind me and I'll like send it to you.
100%.
Yeah.
I also think it's really interesting because obviously we got the Diamond and Pearl version, but you also mentioned the Brawl version, which I had completely forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of forgot about it as well, because while I was going back and sort of refreshing my memory on all the different routes, because honestly it's kind of hard to remember, you know, all the different specific routes music, because, you know, it's all numbers. You kind of have to, you kind of need the visual and you need the music to sort of remind yourself sometimes.
100%.
But I was like looking it up and going through the different routes, and, you know, the Smash Brothers remix for this one came up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing that exists. So it does say, yeah, exactly, this is the sort of, they thought this was like the quintessential route music. And it's interesting because it's not even really like it's not like a fighting music really.
No,
which is what you'd expect for
all.
Smash Bros. But seemingly this was considered representative enough of Sinnoh to be thrown in as like a potential track that you can hear on like the Spear Pillar stage.
Yeah, and of course, like for Spear Pillar, like of all the things, of all the stages to choose for it, Spear Pillar does not seem like the perfect Route 209, you know, place.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because like up until we got like the 3D like console games, we started getting the console games. This was kind of like the first time where these songs were like reorchestrated for like actual instruments. I'm not sure if the soundtrack is still MIDI, but it's not, you know, it's not like chiptune. You know what I mean? It's like the full orchestration we got, besides, you know, maybe like people on YouTube reorchestrating it themselves. All right. Yeah, I think that's got to be my favorite of your picks, because it's my favorite totally overall.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about Route 209 is there is also a good remix of it that I like, which was it just has the trumpet immediately transition into 21 Guns by Green Day.
It's uncanny. It's like nearly exactly the same. Yeah. Siva Gunner, oh, good stuff. But yeah, it is just 21 Guns. But I can't quite, surely it came out after American Idiot. When did American Idiot even come out?
That is a good question.
American Idiot came out 2004. So yeah, American Idiot was well out by then. Do I think Hitomi Sato was well versed in Green Day? Probably not. I think you can just run into that same melody on your own. But yeah, 100%. Great choice.
Yeah.
All right, so we're 4 down. We've got 2 more to go. What's the next one?
All right, so for my last 2 songs, of course, when it comes to Pokemon music, I think one of the main things people think about are the battle themes.
Mm-hmm.
And so while picking mine out, there are quite a lot of really good battle themes out there. Like, just a brief shout out to, you know, like Zinnia's theme, Diantha's theme, like a lot of the champion themes.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to make sure that I had like a good amount of sort of environmental music. You know, I've got a couple of roots in here. There's, of course, you know, the Weird Ranger saving theme, which is more like a jingle than like an actual music track.
Right.
And Unwavering Heart is like a very sort of a set piece music, you know, like it sort of just comes in and like kind of reinforces the tone.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I can't have a list without some battle music. So the first one here is versus Team Plasma from Black and White 1.
This is another great pick. This is one where like anytime I hear it, when you actually start battling Team Plasma, you know the thing that pops up on your screen, just like the trainers and all that.
Yeah,
it's like synonymous.
Pokeballs running and it goes like.
Yeah, it's like synonymous with that. As soon as I hear it, that's what I think. Of course, composed by two of the greatest, Junichi Masuda and Goichi Noze were composers on this one. But what made you choose this one?
I just chose this one because I remember like very clearly when I was originally playing Black and White as a kid. I just remember thinking that this was just like a massive jam.
Oh yeah.
like every time I'd kind of look forward to fighting the Team Plasma grunts because I'd get to hear this music again. And I remember that I would like not like press A to advance the battle because I just let it sit there for a little bit so I could at least get through like the first melody parts before, all the Pokemon cries start going and like battle sound effects start playing. It's just like such a good sort of like opening sting as well.
100%. It's very I like the way it swings. It's a very like bouncy track.
Yeah, it's got like a bit of like a swing rhythm to it at parts.
100%. And then something I always thought was like it's Team Plasma, and if you've ever listened to it like with actual like headphones on, in the right ear there's like this at the start, there's like I have it written here in my notes, a wiggly sound. It's like it's very Plasma like. It I don't know, it just fits so perfectly.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean.
Yeah, and then there's that great organ section around. There's like around 1 minute the organs come in and all that. It's a really it's a perfect battle theme. I really think it is.
Yeah, we got your organs. You got like electric guitar kind of wailing sounds. You got the wiggly electronic sounds. It's just such a good track.
100%. All right, that brings us down to our very last one. What have we got here?
Last one. I mean, it's got to be Ultra Necrozma.
A great one.
Yeah, speaking of like reverent battle themes, it is just so good. I mean, you got that like opening kind of like organ sounds, like sort of like church bells even. So good.
So this one was composed by Go Ichinoze, from what I can find. There was a fan meetup there was a fan meetup in 2018 where Masuda and Ichinoze were talking about Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. And so the original Necrozma theme from the original games was by Masuda and was kind of themed around incompleteness, and they say they felt like the track kind of reflected that. But then Go Ichinoze took that original composition and elaborated on the pipe organs to conjure a godlike image for the arrangement, is what it says in the interview. Which is I totally agree. I think it's very, very godlike. They said in the interview that it's kind of like they purposely made it that this was one of the, I still think it is one of the hardest and most powerful Pokemon you have to face.
Definitely. This is like the infamous Nuzlocke killer.
Yeah, 100%.
If you like, people will say like, oh, but you can just go in with like you can ward it with like a Zorua or like a Flocasash thing, but like the fact that you have to come in with a specific strategy to not get obliterated by it immediately speaks to how powerful it is.
Exactly.
Like you are not coming out of this unscathed in a blind playthrough. This thing comes out, jumps you, it mugs you, takes your whole team away, beats you over the head, and sends you back. Do this again. Try again.
They specifically said they're like, oh, it's supposed to be a hard battle, but if you bring your full team, you can beat it. But like, I don't even think that's true. I had to cheese it my first time. I brought Mimikyu with Toxic because I was just desperate. But like, despite it being such a hard battle and being like this run killer, the song isn't like hopeless. It's a very like triumphant song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that great organ section again. Pokemon and organ goes together so well. At the start, the pipe organ, but also like in the middle, there's another like kind of roadsy organ part. But yeah, this was a track I haven't really listened to a lot. I'm not a big Gen 7 guy. I don't not dislike it. I just haven't played enough of it, frankly. But coming back to it, like, yeah, it's just such a good battle theme. It's triumphant. It doesn't feel like you're going to lose. It doesn't feel hopeless. But there are sections in it that make you think like, okay, like I should take this a little seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a great track.
It is like one of my sort of go-to, like if I'm like doing like on the ranked ladder and stuff, I need music to like lock in for. This is like, that's all my playlist.
100%. So those are your 6. Do you have a specific favorite of those? Could you choose one out? I'm putting you on the spot, I know, but
Yeah, I'm no good at choosing favorites. Like, I mean, like every time I get asked the question, like, oh, who's your favorite Pokemon? It's like there's just too many options, too many variables. You know,
100%.
Like maybe I could pick out like a favorite battle track, but like how can I like compare that to an Unwavering Heart? You know, it's like it's apples and oranges.
100%. If I had to choose, for myself, I gotta say 209. I mean, it's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I could have guessed that.
Yeah, but if I had to choose like my favorite that you've brought, I think Saving is just such a, I don't know, I can't get over how good of a choice it is. It's such a neat little song. I'm really happy to see something interesting. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that it's resonating with you though, because I feel very much like it's a nostalgia pick for me. Like this resonates to sort of a time in my life, like a specific memory. But I'm glad that it kind of also kind of tickles your brain as well in the same way.
Yeah, because like, you know, I think it speaks to how like how music can connect these memories and all that. Because at the end of the day, it's like what 5 notes and then 2 chords. Like there's nothing to it at the end of the day. But just that alone, I think it's where it's placed in the game too is so important. Like you said, like saving and all that. But yeah, great choices overall. I think these are great. So before we go into the little patron section, obviously, thank you so much for joining me. This was, again, more of an experiment than anything, and I appreciate you.
The pleasure's all mine.
Coming out on the front lines
really fun
to try and figure this out. So before we move on to the patron only section, this will be the outro here for like the free feed. Do you have any upcoming projects? You know, plug any and all of your channels. You know, where can people find you?
On YouTube, I'm CannedWolfMeat. On Blue Sky, I'm CannedWolfMeat.standingintheodds.com, whatever. I do have like a few videos I'm working on. Admittedly, nothing like immediately coming out because I need to like work on them. I was going to say I brought a couple of Gen 5 songs because I've very much had Gen 5 on the brain recently. I'm working on a sort of a big project there. But I have no specific end date for when that's going to be because I have to do a lot of shiny hunting.
Right.
That's all I really say about it. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. And yeah, I look forward to big things.
Hell yeah. Good to hear. All right. Well, thank you, Morgan. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Lovely. Thank you very much.